Welcome to Music Ed Tech Talk, a podcast exploring music, education, technology, and the intersections between them, with a special focus on the productive and creative process. I'm your host, Robby Burns. Thanks to my sponsor this week, Scale Exercise Play-Along Tracks. Welcome back to the show, Theresa Hoover.
Thanks for having me back on the show.
My pleasure. It's 3, I think. Is this third time? Yeah.
Yep, this is the third.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, and it seems like it hasn't been that long, but it actually has.
Yeah, a lot of things have happened since then.
Well, I figured that was maybe a good place to start. I mean, people who have either heard those episodes or who follow your work as a teacher maybe would since I think some of the more technological topics we might touch on are related to like new things you're trying based on like some of your newly adjusted professional workloads. Like, do you want to maybe overview what's new with you?
Sure.
Okay.
So last time we talked, it was, I think, like the beginning of the school year, whatever the last school year was. And I had quit my teaching job and just had decided to take almost a year off to just travel and work remote and, enjoy life. And it was amazing. It was wonderful. I did all of those things. I traveled a lot and I did some just random freelance work for random things and loved it. And then also in that time, I ended up applying for graduate school to start working on my PhD. So now I'm living in the Phoenix, Arizona area, and I'm working on a PhD at Arizona State University. Crazy.
It is crazy. And I think that some of the things that excite me about what you're doing right now is that I know that we are mutually excited about organizing ourselves amongst other professional, maybe more musical or pedagogical topics. But I know you've lived in Google land for a long time, but I mean, a lot of the pro tools that I use for organizing myself are things that I kind of almost dream about having had them when I was doing grad school, and they're just things that would have really lightened my load. So I guess I'm wondering right away, what are some of the things you're researching? What's some of the coursework you're taking? What's got you excited? What's engaging you? And then level 2 of that question, I guess, is then are there new tools or workflows or technologies or systems that are helping you to, do your degree?
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's a lot.
I know.
So yeah, I still Google is my go-to, honestly. It's the stuff that I use the most. But I guess what I'm realizing is some of its limitations as far as being a full-time student, and also this new role of researcher, which is really weird to call myself a researcher, but that's kind of, I think, what part of this is. So as far as what I'm doing, so yeah, full-time student, a lot of my coursework now is kind of, I don't want to say introductory because it's not at all, but right now I'm taking a class in qualitative research methods, learning how to do qualitative research. Last semester it was historical research, next year quantitative. So very in-depth things like that, but then also getting to take fun classes. I'm taking a class called Listening and Creating, and we do really cool things and learn about creativity and play with Legos and draw and make music, and it's amazing. Last semester I did one about learner-centered and project-based learning. That was really fun. So it's a neat mix of really kind of in-depth heavy topics and really fun things that we're getting to dive in a lot deeper than I ever had before when I was just, in the public school trying to make the things happen.
I could go a million different directions with this. I'm scared by the research classes.
Sure.
Are they as scary as I expect? Are you do you feel really out of your element in these classes? You're learning a lot, or is this already these are skills that you feel like you are kind of aligned towards?
It's terrifying. But in a good way. Yeah. And it's different. I read a ton. I love to read, but academic reading is very, very different than anything I'd ever done. And even just knowing where to look for sources is very different. Having a university library at my fingertips isn't something that, you have when you teach middle school band. So that kind of stuff is all very new. So it's a lot. It's a lot of new, but it's also, it's good because it's stuff that I'm going to need to hopefully finish this degree. So.
That's cool. So you're doing research and you're probably reading a lot of things. You're probably taking lots of notes. You're trying to make, one of the things about doing research is remembering a lot of information, where you found things, and then of course making meaningful connections between your ideas and other ideas from other people. Do you know where this is going?
I do. I know exactly where we're going.
Okay, great.
You want to talk about Obsidian?
I do, because it's like it's a nerd tool that I've been an app I've been using a lot for the past year and a half, 2 years, and I'm like kind of excited that you are maybe dabbling in it a little bit. And I feel like, with the last couple times you've been on talking about Google, I mean, Google is something that I think most people in education, a lot of districts like give it to them. So it becomes like sort of the standard thing, like it's on everybody's radar. Everybody knows it. Everybody stands to benefit from learning little tips and tricks for how to get the most out of it. But not everybody uses Obsidian. I talk about it. I sometimes feel like I'm just like yelling into the air when I do. So I'm wondering, like, as someone who's recently found this purpose for it in research, I'm wondering, like, what are your observations? What are your feelings about it? Is it this crazy power thing that not everybody should use, or is it like is there something about it that's for everyone?
Well, that's a great question about, is it for everyone? I don't know, because it took me, I think the difference for me between Google and Obsidian is Google, I could just make it work for me right away. Whereas Obsidian, it really took me a little bit of time to get into it and to understand how to set it up and to really talk to a couple of different people to say, okay, try it this way. This is the way I set it up. Now you go for it. But yeah, so what I use it for right now, and I'm kind of adding things all the time. Anytime I read an article or a chapter or whatever, that's where I put my notes first and foremost. So I have a separate note for each article that I read. I've been learning more about how to like create a template, like Dr. Tobias calls it a literature note, how to have a template for that, so I know to make sure all the important things are in it. And then, so that's like the first thing that I started doing with it, is just getting all of that in one spot. And then as I've been getting better with it, start making the connections, like you said. Okay, this particular note happens to be about, let's just say, creativity, even though that's way too broad. But, I might link creativity to it. And then creating a new note called creativity, and I can either pull in all of the things about that from everything, or even just, what do you call it when you click on that little right pane and you can see everything that you've linked to creativity?
Yeah, there's like backlinks, and then there's like a reverse word for outgoing links is what they call it, which is, backlink is basically like, hey, this note is referenced inside of this other note.
Right.
And it goes, of course,
seeing the backlinks and seeing where it goes.
And I think what you're describing is you kind of, for each thing you read, kind of have like a little, I call them sort of like, I use them a lot for projects that are kind of have a lot of moving parts, but like kind of like a dashboard, like a place where you can say, like, here's where I'm collecting a lot of ideas about this subject or about this article. And then you can have other notes. And then there's this sort of like trick in Obsidian where you like put you do a double bracket, and then you start typing the name of another note, and then it creates basically like a clickable URL link straight into that note, which is great.
Yeah, that's been great. So then when I'm going in, like, okay, I need to be writing something about, I'm just going to say creativity again because that's the easiest. I can click on that and it'll show me all of the different articles that I've read that talk about that concept. And again, in reality, I think it's something, it would be much more specific than creativity. In fact, I'm going to open this up right now because I want to be able to speak better. Okay, so let's say I have a note on qualitative research. Oh, go figure, because that's the class I'm taking, right? So the various things we're reading about how to do qualitative research are all linked there. I have a note on discourse because I'm learning about kind of working through some stuff on discourse and how language and knowledge are created and blah, 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 blah. So I can click on that discourse link and then see, okay, here are all the articles I read on this concept. So it's getting there.
Yeah.
I also, go ahead.
I was just going to say, just before we get too deep, Obsidian is free and runs on every major computing platform, desktop and mobile, and is for those who, it does have some you can, like, the value proposition of it definitely requires a little bit of learning, but it does not take much to just start typing text into the notes. Like in that regard, it is not really much more complicated than a regular note app, that you can sort of start with that basic aspect of it and then like sort of build off of it.
Yeah. Yeah. So I have all the like literature type notes in one folder. Everything is labeled by author. And then I've also started creating folders for one for each class that I teach and one for each class that I am taking. So I can also be putting things in there, like whether it's my class notes or like, if I'm working on some kind of a reflection or something like that, things that I'd need for class. And that's where like, I know that a lot of the backlinking is going to come into handy as soon as I get into it more. So if I'm teaching a class and we're going to be talking about learner-centered pedagogy, I can real quick link that to my note that has all the info about learner-centered, and I can also link it to the references that I want to pull from and all of that pretty easily.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. So there's two ways that I'm using it that are really similar to the way you're using it. And one of them, I want to ask if you've heard of this. So there's a couple of tools that will actually integrate reading material and your highlights and notes into it. Are you using either Readwise or Raindrop right now?
I am not, but I know Dr. Tobias uses Readwise. So you like that?
I do. So Readwise is, I think, of the two is paid, but I'll sell it anyway. So Readwise is a service that links Kindle, your Kindle book, and then they actually have their own exceptionally good read it later service right now, which I guess actually deserves its own brief explanation. But the basic service Readwise, you give it like any read it later services you use, anything that can clip stuff from it basically has like a list of, I think at this point, over like 10 to 15, maybe even 20 services where you might read something. And then what it does is it automatically, when you highlight or take notes on something inside of that service, it rounds up all of those highlights and notes into a searchable thing. So like if you use Kindle and you highlight stuff and take notes, it'll grab all of those notes and highlights. If you use Instapaper, which is like it's like a thing where you can like take a website and clip it into sort of like a little readable newspaper style thing that doesn't have any ads or like junk on it, just like text and images. So what it does is it kind of grabs all that, but then there's a plugin for Obsidian which will take all of your Readwise stuff. So Readwise is like sort of funneling Kindle and web and all sorts of other stuff into it, and then it's sort of like automatically through this plugin is creating those notes you're talking about. So like I'm right here, I'm getting nationally board certified right now, and the PDF, like explaining the second component of that, is not fun to read or work through. But I have a note that Readwise generated for me, which basically like automatically, it's like a template. It's got like a heading, and then it's got like highlights and notes, and everything I've typed in this app all sort of makes its way funnels into Obsidian, where I'm actually like connecting one idea to the other. And what's cool is the highlights are like, I guess I can't technically call it a backlink, but like if I'm reading, for example, a Kindle book, it'll bullet point all my highlighted text with a link directly to that page. It'll literally take me straight to that page inside of the Kindle app for context. And this is pretty cool because the Reader group has their own Read It Later app now called Reader, which is not a super specific name, but whatever. And I am currently using it. And what's great about it is you can like plug blog post feeds into it. So like it's my RSS reader now, but then I can also clip stuff from the web to it. So any journal article or anything that you would read on the web could get easily clipped there. But then it has this crazy new feature so it can do other stuff too. Like it can do EPUB books, it can do tweets, like tweet threads you can clip to it. But it already had this feature where you could bring a PDF into it. But now it has this beta feature where, because you know how PDFs are formatted, you know what I mean? So if you're reading on an iPad and there's like lots of little graphical boxes, or if the text is like a certain size, you're like zooming in and out with your finger at all times. The highlighting maybe it's not like OCR'd, so you can't like grab the text. So what Reader has is this button that you press, and then it does its best to basically just turn the PDF text into just like a resizable string of just endless text, kind of like reading a Kindle book or a website. Oh, wow. And then you can like change the font size, you can like swipe. You can just like scroll through the whole thing. There's no pages. It's just like an endless scrolling texting. So that is how I've been reading through the million-page long manual for getting nationally board certified. And then I'm pulling in those notes from those. And then I have a dashboard. This is my other category of thing I was going to say, which is like I've got for each project in my life a dashboard, which links to other notes inside of Obsidian. But I also am using this cool thing. I think you're going to like it. It's called Hookmark. And it's a little utility for the Mac where you can pretty much any type of thing you're looking at on your Mac. It can be a Google Doc, it can be a website, it can be a Pages or a numbers spreadsheet, an Excel document, a note in Apple Notes, an email message. If you're looking at it and it is in the foreground, you invoke a keyboard shortcut, and then it'll copy a URL link to the clipboard, which you can then paste, and I'll like paste inside of Obsidian, and then you can like that will like link you directly to whatever you're looking at, back straight into that data.
Wow.
So like I will be, if I have a document in like an Excel spreadsheet that I'm working on that's somehow related to a project, and I'm having trouble like keeping all that stuff organized, in my Obsidian dashboard, we'll grab a Hookmark link, put it in there alongside some other unrelated non-Excel spreadsheet things, and then when I click it, it just opens that document. So it's kind of cool.
Huh. Okay. So you've got me really intrigued. So I signed up for a Readwise account. I don't use it yet because I'm the one thing that it does, I don't know that I need it to do, although it probably would help. So do you ever use Zotero?
No. Please go on.
Okay. So it's oh goodness, what is it? I think people call it a citation manager. I think that's what people call it, but basically I use it in similar ways that sounds like you're using Readwise. I can put all my citations in there for anything I've read, but it'll also hold my PDFs. So I've been reading many of my PDF articles directly through Zotero. I do all my highlights there. I do have to like click a button and tell it to copy and paste all my highlights, but then I put them into Obsidian. So I have to say, gather all my highlights, and then, I do it, but it only takes a couple seconds. And then once I get into Obsidian, then I kind of go through and I kind of clean them up a little bit and also add my own thoughts to it. So for me, it's like that second processing step a little bit, like, okay, I've read the article, I've done the highlights. Now let's process this information, kind of put it in some different categories, try to do some like synthesis work. But where Zotero is amazing, so like this violin project that I was talking about before with the active shoulder rest, we were putting a paper together. We were writing a paper collaboratively between the 5 of us, and people were adding all kinds of different citations and sources and things like that. And it had to be in a very, very specific format. I'm used to MLA from high school, APA, Chicago, things like that. But it had to be in some crazy computer, I don't even know what it was, kind of format, which I don't know anything about. But it doesn't matter what kind of formatting it is. I could go through, we entered all of the different citations into Zotero. I went through, clicked the ones I needed, clicked a couple buttons, and it automatically gave me a references page formatted the proper way. Okay, so that was the first thing that was amazing. But what was even more amazing is there is an add-on for Google Docs. So in the actual paper itself, I would go up, click on the Zotero thing, I would start typing like the beginning of the resource or the citation that I needed, and then I would click and it would add in the proper formatting in the text of what I needed, like the in-text citation, and then it would also put it down in the references for me. And as I went, it continually updated the whole thing, put it in the correct order, alphabetized, added the little footnotes. It was unbelievable. I don't know if I'm doing it justice the way I'm explaining it, but it was amazing.
This is nuts, and the app looks like it's designed for the Mac, which is cool. Looks like it's
Yeah, I have it on my Mac. I have it on my iPad, and the two talk to each other great. So like when I'm looking at it, I see this long library of resources, and then you can put them in folders and things like that. But just the way that I guess reference manager, maybe that's what they call it. But the way that it will not only hold everything for me and then I can find it, I have all my highlights, but then when I got to the actual paper writing and the stage where I had to go through and make sure that all of the in-text citations were properly formatted, everything in the references section was correct. It just did it. And I could have picked any number of different kinds of citation formats. Like the crazy computer one that we had to use was in there. Obviously APA, Chicago, all of the kind of normal things.
Yeah, that sounds like it saves so much
really
time and sanity.
Yeah. So I think I could also use Readwise, but to me it just feels like an extra step that I don't know if I need. Maybe if you ask me in a year, I'll tell you a different story because I'll be even more in depth into things. But at the moment, this plus Obsidian seems to be working for me.
That's great. I'm going to link. I haven't read these thoroughly, but as you've been talking, I found 2 links that might be interesting to you. One of them is on the Mac Power Users Forum. It's like someone who has got an Obsidian, Readwise, and Zotero workflow that seems to be working for them.
Okay.
And then I also found, this is starting to get a little bit wild into the weeds. It would depend on how much you really wanted to save some steps. But there's a Python script I found that basically like will send Zotero annotations to Readwise. I think that's what it does.
Cool.
I haven't really read this thoroughly.
Well, and as you were talking a few minutes ago about the hook thing, I can't remember the name of it. I forgot already. But I'm wondering, would that also work with Zotero? Because you were saying that you could click, right? You could get that hook link. It would be in Obsidian. You could click and it would take you right to the article. Do you think it would take me right to my Zotero article too?
I haven't found an app yet on the Mac that will not save. I think Messages maybe does not. Hold on, I'm in Messages. Yeah, no linkable item found in Messages. So I don't think Messages works, but I mean, almost every app I've ever done. I mean, I can tell you things that I have had success with. Obviously, any URL that's on the web works. Email messages, Slack messages, calendar events, OmniFocus tasks, Craft, Obsidian links, any of the like Office Suite apps by Apple or Microsoft. Or Google all work. So, I mean, I've had tremendous success getting it to, and all it's doing is it's just creating a link, like a little URL. So you basically just highlight a word or paste it in, but you can also do that thing where you like highlight a word, turn it into a hyperlink, and then paste it's just linking you straight into a document instead of a website.
No, that sounds cool.
That's cool. Yeah. And
I'm gonna try that.
Some of the integrations here on Readwise that I have hooked up are Kindle, Instapaper, Twitter. Raindrop is really cool. Raindrop is a free app that is really good for clipping websites. It's not as like the Readwise Reader or like Instapaper, in that it's not like primarily known for making things into like really reader friendly interfaces, but it is just a great way to sort of grab. For me, it's kind of like anything that's not like long form reading that is on the web, I'll clip to it. And that is because it's free and also has a plugin for, because it integrates with Readwise, and because Readwise integrates with Obsidian, the highlights will, through sort of a chain reaction, will also link up in there. Okay. But it's also got Goodreads support, Libby support, Kobo, Shortform, Feedly, a bunch of stuff I've never heard of before, Apple Books, Google Play Books, PDFs.
That's cool. The other thing I'll say about Zotero, there's also I think it's a Chrome extension that I've been using. So depending on what website I'm on that I'm finding the articles, like if I find something through Google Scholar, a lot of times I can just click on the Chrome extension and it'll pull it right into my Zotero without me having to download the article and put it in myself. It doesn't work with every single thing. Like I've found if someone's published it through like Adobe, that I can't always get it to go directly there, but it'll pull a lot of things for me, which is cool.
That is really cool. Yeah, I mean, I live for this stuff. I just, there's not enough time in the day, so if you can save some clicks and some taps.
I'm with you. I just give me those couple clicks back, yeah.
But also I'm finding that like my brain doesn't necessarily think about or structure things in the same order that someone might present them. And so for me to be able to create my own structure or system that's going to help me to have some sort of sense of flow when I'm following or tracing ideas. Also, like sometimes ideas are presented bad, I'm learning. Like there's things I'm reading in some of the documentation that I may or may not be studying for that experience I may or may not have mentioned earlier, where like I'm now able to it's a little bit more clear. I'm like, wait, am I crazy? Or was I in one spot, did it say I was supposed to have like 2 or 3 students that I record videos of? Or does it say 6 or more in this spot? So I have them all highlighted. I'm like, yeah, sure enough, there's like 3 different explanations of how many kids are supposed to be my test subjects that I video. So, it's definitely a thing that can help. And I can only imagine
I can see
adding research methods on top of that
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. And like, I feel like the amount of stuff that I read each week, there's no way I can remember it. So to be able to have something that's going to help me organize it and help me find things is, yeah, I don't know how I would do it. I kind of wish that like in August we had a like how to PhD boot camp or something.
Yeah.
Where we just had like a whole week to try all these tools and figure them out. So there you go. Suggestions to anybody in higher ed.
How to PhD. I think a lot of people
How
would
to
really
PhD.
like to know that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everyone tells me the struggle.
It's a lot.
Is it too much if I like rattle off a couple of my Obsidian plugin recommendations to you?
No, please. I might take notes.
Okay, I'm gonna just like there's a couple. So this is a thing that if for anyone who does not know, what makes Obsidian appealing is aside from this feature of like being able to link notes to other notes, there's also a plugin system. So like if you ever used like Ableton Live or Logic Pro or something or Pro Tools, and you like buy a piano sound from a third party, and then you like plug in that piano sound to a track and then play your MIDI keyboard and get that sound. This is like that, but for text notes. And but the thing is that these are all free. So the user community makes these, and you can just install them straight into the software. So let me look through here. So, I mean, I have quite a few. So one of them is called. So it like do you ever do a table inside of an Obsidian note?
You know, I just tried my first table and I'm not thrilled. So yes, tell me. How can I?
So Obsidian is only text, but that doesn't mean you can't put images and videos and stuff in your note. In the same way that like under the hood, a website with like a YouTube video embedded in it, that's all HTML. It's all just text characters, but that's not how it presents itself. So Obsidian, similarly, you can put literal actually like HTML code inside of a note and it will render it. So like you can, whatever is like the embed code for a tweet or a YouTube video, if you just paste that into the note, it'll render it, show it to you as if you're viewing it on a website. Well, tables are similar. There's like this syntax where it's like you type this like a pipe and then 3 dashes and then a pipe. There's this whole system for how to type in a table, but it's pretty cumbersome. So there's a plugin called, I believe I have a couple of ones for tables. One of them is called Advanced Tables, and this is great because you can just basically copy and paste in from Google Sheets, Numbers, or Excel. You can like basically copy cells from an actual spreadsheet application and paste them into your Obsidian note, and it will like do all of the formatting for you. So that's a really nice one.
What's a good one to like build a table in and like add to a table within Obsidian?
So maybe advanced. So the one I'm looking at right here is called Advanced Tables, and let's see. So it says auto formatting, Excel-like table navigation. So you can basically it adds the ability to hit tab and enter between cells and rows, which otherwise would like edit the characters, right? So you can add and remove columns and rows. So I think what it's doing is I don't use it a lot, but it adds a little bit of user interface to the table so that they look and feel a little bit more like a spreadsheet app. It's not going to be like the prettiest, nicest thing ever in the world, but it's going to be an improvement. So that's a cool thing. There's one that adds a word count and a character count to the bottom of the screen. There is one that allows you to see your calendar. It looks at your calendar in Google Calendar and allows you to see your events alongside the notes. This one is really cool. So it's called Convert URL to Preview. And if you type in like a YouTube URL into it, it'll just basically, without knowing the HTML, it'll do an embed of the YouTube video. Cool. Just like have a playable YouTube video inside of your note, which is kind of nice. Let's see what else. You know what? The table one I mentioned earlier is the one that makes it easier to work with tables, but the one that lets you copy and paste in Excel, Numbers, or Google Sheets, that one is called Excel to Markdown Table. That's actually a different plugin I'm seeing here.
Okay.
I have a couple things that work with Google Calendars and Contacts to sort of like pull in person data, because one great thing about Obsidian is like you can take notes on an event or a person. You can start to think of everything that is knowledge as a possible note for yourself. And notes can be really long, like a dashboard for a project, but they can also be short. Like a note could be as simple as, I was with this person at TMEA and this is their favorite drink. And I can like, maybe in 3 years, I find myself with that person and I can, trace a trail of breadcrumbs back to this, be like, oh, what is their drink? I can remember this now and seem really smart and memorable.
What would you do with that note? So you make a note about random person at TMEA. Do you have like a folder called people, or what would you do with it?
I would probably
that's the other thing I'm trying to figure out.
Yeah, so I might just make a note. I don't have one, but I might as well make one. I could just make a note called Theresa, and then it could have links. It could have some stuff about like your favorite drink, or like it could have like I take notes sometimes on events in my calendar. So if we were at an event together, or like even this call is an event, I could have like times that I have interacted with you or other kinds of things that are related to you but that are not you be backlinked to the note that is you. So your note is sort of like acting as just basically a way of like seeing other things that are interconnected to you but that are not the actual identity of you, if that makes any sense.
I think so. Do you use folders in Obsidian?
I do. I can tell you that my folders are pretty sparse, but a couple of them are. Okay. So all of my Readwise saved articles and book highlights go into a folder. I've got one I do the show notes and blog post drafts for Music Ed Tech Talk, so that has a folder. Some major areas of life have folders. So like I have Howard County Public School System, anything related to working with the honor band or with my school. I look at Mills Middle School. Mm-hmm. Private lessons has a folder. Some general like top level personal things like health, finance. Mm. I have a folder of daily notes, which is, I don't know if you use the daily note, but that's
sometimes
it's a cool thing to do, or you can basically have a note related to the day itself. Because like, for example, if I had a note that was called Theresa, I would probably in my daily note, I could just write something as simple as today I podcasted with Theresa, and then I would backlink to your note. And now there's like a connection between the day that it happened and you, the person.
Yeah, that makes sense.
All right, I'll give you like 2 more. I'm trying to find good, actually practical ones. Some of these are like really esoteric and things specifically that I need. Well, one thing is you can customize the look of this. So a lot of people I know who use the app use the minimal theme, which is just you install it and then it cleans things up a bit, makes it nice and pretty.
Yep, that's the one I use.
Somebody in a Discord channel, I recommended this, and then someone it was like a dream of mine to have, and then some user just made it for me. In a Discord server I'm a part of. It is all it does is whatever is the current line of text in Obsidian, it'll take that line of text and then make an OmniFocus task related to that. Like that is the task is the title of whatever the text line is, but then it'll create a link from Obsidian to OmniFocus and from OmniFocus to Obsidian. So it like connects the task and the line of text together between the 2 apps.
That's cool.
I like that.
That's very cool.
Let's see here. Readwise, we talked about that. This is an interesting one. So there's one that like basically allows you to, do you know how like guitar tabs and lyrics kind of have like a text-based formatting where it's like above the words, you sort of see the chord symbol over specifically the syllable. So there's actually one that will take your Obsidian notes. You can basically create chord charts inside of Obsidian, and it will format them with, you have some like ability to control where the chords appear.
That's really cool.
This was really, okay, I'll give you one like kind of tweaky thing. So like when you have the left side panel, which is like your folders and files open, and then the right side, which is the calendar and the backlinks, if you change the window size, your note that's in the middle of those 2 sidebars just gets like really awkward and squished. But somebody made a plugin where like when you choose like how many pixels is the minimum amount that a note can be, and if you make the window small enough, it'll automatically hide the 2 sidebars. So so that was like a nice, interesting, because it was one of those things that made the app feel ugly and broken to me, and that one helped. Oh, here's a really crucial one. So all of the notes in Obsidian are markdown files, which is something that I don't want to get too much into markdown is, but it's a .md file. There's a plugin called text as markdown, which basically says, hey, if it's just a regular text file like .txt, Obsidian is able to see those as well and treat them as notes. So those are some of my basics.
All
I
right.
like them very much.
I'll have to try some of them. Yeah, I'm getting there. I can definitely now see its value. It's just a matter of making it a really comfortable workflow for me. And also and keeping it organized. Like that's the thing that drives me crazy is when something's not organized. So like making sure that I can keep on top of, and for me, I think folders are going to be a necessity just because of the way I think. But I love that even though something might be in a folder, it's not stuck in a folder because it's also backlinked to 4 other things.
Yeah, exactly. And you can use tags in Obsidian too, just by simply doing the # followed by a word.
Yeah.
Which is a
That's true.
nice handling of that, because sometimes something needs to be, tagged a word that might not be in the contents of the note, but it doesn't actually, I always say, if, something can be tagged like multiple things, but it can only live inside of one folder, which is kind of the benefit of doing it that way. Yeah. So, I mean, I like it. It's definitely working for me. It's overtaking more and more of my things. It's also really easy to get around. Like, the keyboard shortcut Command O just is a really fast way to find any of the notes in your database. And the command palette, I don't know if you use that a ton, but it's I think it's Command P.
Not yet.
Is for palette. And it's like all of the features of Obsidian and any of the Obsidian plugins are now searchable by text. And a lot of them are kind of just formatted in English, wording. So like it's almost as if you can kind of command the app to do things. So like for me, if I don't remember like how to delete a note, I can just Command P, delete current note, like literally type delete current note and then hit enter, and then it'll do that.
Yeah, I should do that more. Because well, again, it's a work in progress. I'm getting there.
Yeah. Okay, thanks for geeking out with me on that subject.
Yeah, of course. But I do have to say, you didn't mention the canvases, and I have been enjoying those.
Oh my gosh, good point.
Actually,
yes, it's a new feature. How would you describe the canvas feature?
I had to say that. Oh, it's like a mind map.
Yeah.
Or at least that's the way I'm using it. Yeah. And again, I'm still like just dipping the toe in, but so like kind of creating that mind map and then being able to link little things to bigger notes, right? Yeah, so I'm working on a paper now, and it's going to be pulling things from a bunch of different spots, and I need to see it. I need to see it in one place, even though all the info is in different places. So just kind of being able to create the little blocks and tie them together, and then link the blocks where the big picture information is.
Yeah, so what I like about it is that it's sort of just like an empty, infinite white canvas, but you can in the same way that you can backlink a note with the double brackets inside of another note, you can actually just like import a visual, like the entire graphical representation of the note inside of the canvas, and you can have multiple notes all visible at the same time.
Yeah.
But then you can also drag and drop or copy and paste websites into a canvas, and which is great. They render inside of the note. So like I have a lot of trouble planning big trips. I have a TMEA note from when I went earlier this year. And like I've got a whole little area of the mind map that's like me trying to get money from my county to go, and I have like all of the PDFs and websites and stuff related to that all sort of in one little area, and you can like drag little nodes from one thing to the next. They all sort of look related.
Yeah.
And then I have like an area that's like receipts of stuff that I bought to like itemized, and then I have like my session approvals, like literally like just the URL of what they linked me to. I like pasted those all in, so they all just look so easy. It's just so easy to see everything and find everything.
So tell me, how do I link things, like a website you were saying? How do you do that?
Okay, so I'm in Chrome. I'm gonna paste out. Okay, I'm looking at a drumhead right now on Mike's Music, MD.com. I think I'll just throw out a local business, support local business there. So I am just simply taking from the URL in Chrome that URL link, and I'm going to hit Command V for paste inside of a canvas, and it just brings it in. It's that simple. So now when I zoom in far enough, I can see that website, and you can actually scroll through it. It's like a fully it's like an operating tab of a website inside of a canvas or inside of a note. I can even,
Okay.
it works like a website.
Do you have a plugin that makes that do that?
No, I just command V'd the URL inside of my canvas.
Hmm.
Does that not
Okay.
work for you?
I'll have to play with it more. No, it's not working for me, but that's okay. I'll figure
Maybe
it
it is.
out.
I'll,
'Cause right now
if
it's
it
showing
is,
me a
I'll,
link.
I will, if I've installed something wacky to make that work, I'll make sure to put a link to it in the notes to this episode by the time I
Sounds
publish
good.
it. And of course, tell you
And keep in mind, it
what it
very
is.
well it could be user error. Like there, I will not. I'm not going to say that this is definitely something I know what I'm doing. But I'm working.
It's just
on
really
it.
nice
Again,
though. Like yeah. We're like managing enrollment for next year, and we've got like a spreadsheet with our elementary school teachers, like incoming 6th graders. We've got one like outgoing 8th graders. We've got like the thing we do internally with our school's student services office, and like I just dragged and dropped the links to the all the varying Google spreadsheets into a canvas to manage all of this, and it's just cool to kind of see the student lists like scrollable all at the same time.
yeah.
And in addition to that, like our notes, and like I'll use that Hookmark app to like any email correspondences I might want to get back to with any of these teachers at the elementary or high school level. I'll just paste them all in there.
That's cool. That's really cool.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks for mentioning the Canvas thing.
Yeah, of course. If we are we pausing on Obsidian and moving on? I have another new one that I've been using that I could tell you about if you want.
Yes, go for it.
Okay. So I've also been using an app called ClickUp. Are you familiar with that one?
I've heard of this one before,
Yeah.
but I don't use it myself.
Yeah, it was one that was recommended at the beginning of the semester. I think like a lot of the new things that I'm using, I'm still just using it like on the just the very, very basic ways. But it's essentially it's like a task manager, you know, it's a to-do list, it's a thing like that. But I guess what could be a more robust way to use it would just be with there's a lot of collaborative things. So right now I use ClickUp for all of my ASU like coursework to-dos for like all of my homework goes there. Because I need some way to keep track of it, right? So all of the different like homework assignments are there, and then I also have, and they're all on separate lists. Like I have a little list for each class, so I can keep all of them along with the due dates and the kind of task it is. And then I have one also for like the different projects I'm working on or like the classes I teach, things like that. And it's been a nice place to keep everything like that organized. But then I can also just click on the grand view and see all of it and see, okay, here's all the things that have to be done for Monday. And let's see how many of them we're going to actually get done for Monday. but
oh my, yes.
But it's also been a kind
So
of
this is
fun
kind
one,
of like a,
you know.
so this is like your main task manager in addition to these other collaborative and document based things?
No, this is not my main task manager. It's just one that I've been trying for school. The one I use like for me is Todoist. And I know you're like, why do you have so many things? Because I can't keep track of things. Yeah. So the one I'm using for like life is Todoist, and I've been using this just for schoolwork.
Okay.
Again, it was recommended at the beginning of the semester by someone, and I was like, I'll try it. And I do like it. I could maybe possibly use it as my one and only, but
Well, that's the thing. It's an
I'm not
ongoing
ready to
thing
go
I ask. 'Cause
exclusive.
it's like, right. That's a question I ask about my apps. Is like, do I want the one app to rule them all, or do I want lots of little things that are good at what they're good at?
Mm-hmm.
And that's why Obsidian and Hookmark appeal to me. Is it's like I can let those tools be super powerful and robust, but then I also can kind of like make connections to some of my, you know, if I really like the way that numbers is to just make a really pretty looking thing, I can use numbers for this, but link it to a note. So I kind of like that. Obsidian is the kind of app that sort of suggests that it's powerful enough to be an everything app, but it's just, you know, it's kind of nice to use lots of different, you know, it's kind of like having lots of different kinds of wrenches in your, you know, it's like you can kind of get by lots of different tasks with one kind of size wrench, but if you expand your tools, you can kind of refine and add efficiency to how you get your work done.
yeah. And I also kind of like to keep things a little bit separate. You know, I don't necessarily want to see all of my homework assignments every single day all the time.
Right.
I kind of, it's nice to be able to have them in their own spot. Whereas, you know, things like buying dog food and, you know, remembering to publish a podcast episode and things like that, I can keep on the main list.
Yeah. that's another way of kind of fragmenting things is like the, what domain of life is it in? And there's a lot of people who I know who do use a specific tool for a specific area of life. I bounce between those boundaries giving me some focus on the thing that I'm currently focused on, but I also am only one person. And I know that I'm like thoughts are swirling around in my head at all times of day about any one of the things that make me who I am. So it's, I tend to not do that. There's a cool feature on Apple stuff now, and I wish more third-party apps used it. It's actually the reason I'm back using Apple Mail, because a lot of apps that are, good, well-behaved citizens on iOS and macOS are using something called a focus filter, which is if you use the focus modes on your device where you can like I'm in a podcasting focus mode right now where like certain people and apps cannot notify me while we're recording this. But they added this thing to it in the fall where now there's like per app, like inside of app content can be filtered. So like the Mail app, if I have both my work and personal email address inside of it, it will only show me the work messages when my phone detects that I am at Elegant Mills Middle School.
Oh, wow.
So I can use my one Mail app for everything, but it is sort of adding some focus for me.
That's nice that it's going to add that boundary for you. Yeah. Because that's why I try to keep the work stuff separate, because I know that I get so distracted. I don't want to see it. Because if I see it, I'll get distracted by it. It's that bright, shiny object that is not shiny at all. But yeah.
There is the way that most apps handle this is like they add a little button to tell you you're in a focus mode, and you can click it to not be filtering the content. But I like that it makes me choose to click the button. It makes me more aware. It's like, all right, am I choosing right now to look at work email at 8 p.m.? Because I really don't have to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's funny. It's actually because of you, kind of, that I used Todoist.
Nice.
So I was listening to your podcast, and I think it was your interview with Frank Buck. Does that sound right? When he was talking about like to do apps.
Oh yeah,
and stuff like that?
He is a productivity guy.
Yeah. So I was driving when I was listening, and he was talking about forgetting to get your driver's license renewed. And I was like, oh, that's so silly. How could you do that? So I'm driving along, and he says it again about like forgetting to get your driver's license renewed. I'm like, oh, so silly. I was like, I wonder when my driver's license expires. Sure enough, at stoplight, I pull it out. It had been expired for 3 months. And I had no idea.
Yeah.
Like, oh, thinking I need a better system.
Is it appropriate to say on the show how long I went without my most recent car registration being renewed?
Oh, nice. It's as long as it's renewed now, who cares?
Well, it really can create some problems, right? Because like this is a problem where if I got pulled over so basically what ended up happening was my wife was picking up her mom from the airport with our son in the back seat, and a police officer, and the only reason he noticed was because he had nothing else really going on. It was like a pretty light day, and he was like, hey, your license is X amount of days or years, I won't say. No, I'm sorry, not your license, your tags. The tags were, let's just say they were very, very overdue. And he she had a kid in the car. He was basically just like, here's a piece of paper, get this taken care of immediately. And then, it was very embarrassing for me. So, and apparently the car, you get an email about this from, for us, the MVA. I don't know how I for whatever reason did not get this notice, but I just let that go. Yeah. And so now I have every 2 year repeating task in OmniFocus. Yeah. Which just reminds me to deal with it. I'm living inside of repeat tasks right now in my task manager.
Oh yeah.
I have like really like these systems of like routines and habits I'm trying to build in my day. I used to never put this kind of nonsense inside of a to-do app because it would make me stressed. But I'm beta testing OmniFocus 4, which is coming out, I guess, sometime in 2023. And the way that the like daily view of tasks has been tweaked is it's really so much more flexible with like it shows them alongside your calendar events, and you can sort of drag and drop them like intermixed with your calendar, like when in the day you want to try to get them done. And so I'm just like, it's just so much more flexible that it's become the place that I put, even if it's an idea. I used to put like only the very specific verb oriented tasks in there where I was like very clear what to do. But like right after this, I said I would like cook a pizza after we record. And I would typically never put this kind of thing there. But I like right after the calendar event in OmniFocus that says to record with you, I just put the word pizza as a task. And it's because of tweaks to the interface that it's easy to like drag and drop stuff and see everything in the order you want to see it in. So I have these like early morning like work routines that are like, it's like a task with a bunch of subtasks put at exactly the right time in my free like morning that is honest with when I really will do it. And it's great. It's like every day I have, it's called morning prep, and it shows up as invisible to me until around 8:00 a.m., which is when I usually sit down at my desk. And the first subtask is to set up a daily grade in my concert band and wind ensemble class, which is like the daily rehearsal procedural grade. And I've put, and Canvas is so cumbersome about setting this all up. So I've put in the notes field clickable links directly to the place where I make the grade so that it's like as easy as possible. Perfect. And that's step one. And then step two is like, I'm trying to like be better about like playing them music, period, but also like by wider ranges of composers. So I have like daily music listening, like choose the daily music there, right there. And that, just to remind me to do that. And then I have like, I set the daily agenda, which is in Obsidian. Like the section, type out the sectional schedules for the day. Like what's the order of the pieces we're going to play. I have actually this cool thing where that Obsidian note generates a slide that they see, like a pretty looking slide at the front of the room, which we can talk about more if you want. But that kind of stuff, and that's just like that little checklist just appears automatically every day, and it's reset to appear only on weekdays. So it's cool. It just kind of, it's just like making little breadcrumbs that kind of link me out and make things that are like so hard. It just puts in front of you, like, here's what you're supposed to be focused on right here, right now, in this exact moment. It requires, though, a lot of honesty with myself about when realistically I can and will do those things, or else I ignore them.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. The thing I like the most about Todoist, and I'm sure other things do this, but that's why I needed this kind of app, is the ability to make a project or like a project template and then have that repeat. And I think you've probably talked about this stuff. So like I have a project template that I use for every podcast episode. So it'll have every single step that I need to do for that to make a podcast episode happen. Like everything from like send the Zoom link, send the questions, record the thing, and then afterwards add the YouTube description, add this and all of the things. Because I was finding I was doing all the things, but I couldn't remember if I had done them. So I would go back and check to see if I had done the thing like 3 times. It's like, this is ridiculous. I'm spending too much time like worrying about if I did the thing. Whereas I just have this one template, I copy it for each new episode, and then I can go through and just check them off as I did it. And I don't have to look back like, did I really publish the YouTube? I don't remember. Because it's all there for me. And I can add the dates to it, and I can obviously tweak it, but it's
What do you actually put, what does the template go into? Like what kind of software?
It just goes right in. It's in Todoist.
Oh, okay, cool.
It's just right there in the, yeah. So I have like a template for podcast episodes and a template for blog posts, just so that I have all of the steps that it takes to make one of those things happen. And I don't have to think about it each time around. It prompts me.
I should make one for blog posts. I have one for this show, from like emailing the guest to like sharing the links on social media, but I really do need a blog post.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm writing. Thank you for the idea. How do you do templates in Todoist? Because I know you could use the Shortcuts app, but that's a little bit cumbersome. I like to be able to just kind of type text.
Let's see. So it's called a project. So it's listed as one of the projects.
Okay.
And so I just made a project called podcast template, and then I just duplicate it each time.
Got it. Okay, cool.
For each episode. Yeah.
That's great.
And I'm pretty sure I pay something minimal yearly for to have like unlimited projects and just to have all the kind of extra bells and whistles for Todoist. But it's working well for me. And I know you use some other kind of fancy things, but this was like the step up from your traditional one. But then it has everything like don't forget on the first of the month you got to give the dog his heartworm medicine. Don't forget, you need to do this thing a lot of things I have just set on repeat. Or if it's something that's coming up, let's say I Okay, well, even Todoist is a good example, right? You pay for it yearly. So I pay for it maybe, I don't know, March 1st. I set myself a reminder for the last week of February for the next year. Do you still want to pay for Todoist? So that I can actually like think to cancel it before it auto charges me, things like that. Like, so I remind myself to like cancel those things if I want to, or at least acknowledge that, okay, I'm going to get charged soon. Because there's just no way. I can't remember.
I've got a monthly.
I don't want to remember.
Right, exactly. I have to have a monthly like review your subscriptions thing, and yeah, it's hard because they kind of like are using different payment sources. Like there's like that page in the iPhone settings where it's like Apple stuff that uses their payment system, and then it's like I got to go through my bank statements to see like how many like TV media, like am I going to cancel Paramount Plus? Paramount Plus is always on the chopping block. It's got to really prove its value to me. It's not like Disney Plus or HBO Max, which is like pretty much guaranteed lock for every month of the year. Like,
yeah. Yeah. Well, or when you sign up for the free trial of something and you're like, I know I'm only going to use this for that trial amount of time, but I've got to cancel it before they charge me.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a thing. Definitely a thing. Great for task managers. Yeah, I use OmniFocus has a cool. It's like a text only syntax, and what's nice about it is that the dates of when things appear as due can be relative to some information that you give it every time you create the project. That's the thing that I really like, because
that's nice.
My concert template is like I'll tell it the concert is on this date, and then like this group is performing, and then it won't actually show me the pack the tubas into the car until like 4 p.m. on the day of the concert when I actually will do that.
That's one thing that I wish it could do, because I do have to manually put the due dates for the projects like throughout, which I mean it's not the end of the world. It's still a lot better than what my old system, but I do wish it would add those for me. But maybe someday maybe right before Todoist expires or the next time I'll think about switching. We'll see.
Yeah, totally. You reminded me when you were talking about ClickUp of it's like a really new thing. So I think I'm going to be really fresh and cool to mention it. It is a new Microsoft app called Loop. Did you see the news about this?
Oh.
So Obsidian is not the only app in this category. In fact, I did I had a really cool conversation with Dr. Corey Meals about. He did a thing at TMEA, Second Brain for the music educator. But in Second Brain, thinking is all about like using these personal knowledge management apps to organize your life. And so there's like other competitors in this space. There's Craft, which I love for making shareable content. There's Notion, which is really, really popular. And Microsoft is joining the party. Microsoft is exceptionally good at stealing new and cool ideas and making like sort of lukewarm, sad versions of them. But since everybody has a Microsoft 365 account, it's like, why would you not use the thing you're already paying for? That's kind of like how Microsoft seems to work. But this looks really cool because it is essentially a similar like database note-taking kind of solution where you can link different notes together, but it also has collaboration using your Microsoft 365 account. And what's crazy is you can like take little bits of other Microsoft apps data and put them inside of your notes, and they stay in sync. So like if I create a workspace in Loop with, let's say, my music team, and we're not trying to juggle like a million different files all over our hard drives, like I could make a spreadsheet in Excel to track like t-shirt, how many kids have paid for their concert attire shirt that we sell them at the beginning of the year. I don't actually do this. Thankfully, the other band director does this. But she could like take the cells of that spreadsheet and just copy and paste them into Loop. And then we would like see them in context of our other notes in conversation, but then the data syncs. So like if I was looking in that note and a kid paid me for a shirt, I could just do it right in the note, and then her spreadsheet would like reflect that same change. So like tasks, spreadsheet, you can like grab little bits of Microsoft Word documents and presentations and stuff. So it's supposed to be kind of like a canvas that integrates all of the strengths of their separate tools, but in a way where you're not making all this like redundant data and conversation threads all over your different apps. That's cool. It looks really nice. When I try to log into it, though, it says your supervisor has not enabled this because it's in beta right now.
Yeah. Oh, then yeah, it's gonna. I'm sure it'll take a little time before they give you access to that one.
I wonder if I can probably, it's beta. I could probably use it with my personal Microsoft 365. I'll report back.
Yeah. Good. Okay.
Cool. So that's a good one. I don't know. I don't know if you have other stuff you wanted to cover. I'm open to anything, but I also, of course, have some segments if you want to do some segments.
Oh, well, I'll be honest. I only remembered that you do segments when we got on Zoom. So.
That's fine. I can like, so I actually didn't prepare.
It wasn't on my to-do list. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Okay, but I think I have things I could talk about, so that's okay.
I think we can wing it. I think we really can wing this. Okay.
I think so.
Do we want to do app of the week first?
Sure.
Okay. I have, you know what? I'm going to do one that has like synergy with our existing conversation. I have a couple of things I want to say here, but
okay.
So Obsidian is a good text app. Like if you have a folder of text files that you like to write into, it's great. In fact, that's how it works. It just looks at a folder of text files. It presents it to you kind of like a note app, but every now and then it's cool to have, like if there's a note app that maybe has cooler features or that presents notes to you in a different way, it might be nice. And that's the benefit of course, Obsidian, is that you can take your notes and open them inside of other note opening applications. Unlike, say, like if you're using Apple Notes or Google Docs, like all that stuff is sort of just living inside of their proprietary, space and working in the way that they've designed it to. So I have a text editor that I really like right now. And, I have a text editor that I like for dealing with code. I have one that a couple different ones that I use for writing text, but I found a really cool one this week. It's free. It's called MarkEdit. And it is available on the Mac App Store. And what I like about it is that it's very bare bones, like almost like no features. It just shows you your text in a really clean, easy to read interface. But what's really cool is they've somehow integrated Grammarly into it using some like web technologies. Nice. So I have this little keyboard shortcut in Obsidian, which will basically I can designate a default app for my Markdown notes. And so I have this keyboard shortcut that'll now, when I'm ready to post a blog post, will just open the note I'm looking at, the blog post draft, inside of MarkEdit, and just give me some real just correct my silly spelling errors that I otherwise would miss before posting. And it just makes it a little bit more seamless, and it's a really clean, beautiful editor. It's free.
Well, that's a good thing. We like free.
We do.
Well, my app of the week isn't fancy, but it's been actually working for me for the last couple months. So I'm pretty sure I have ADHD. That is something that between pandemic and now PhD, I'm like, yeah, that's a thing. So focusing is a challenge. So I've been using this silly app called Forest. Have you ever heard of it?
I have heard of this actually.
Their little catchphrase is stay focused, be present. And basically you open the app and you pick an amount of time that you're going to focus and work on something. So I usually pick like 25 to 30 minutes. And then you click the word plant. And what it does is it starts to plant a tree. And as you're working, the tree is going to grow and grow and grow. But if you touch your phone during that time, the tree dies. So if you can make it in that amount of time doing your work and focusing, you successfully grow a tree or various plants. And then you can look and you can see it in your forest and you can see how many trees you planted that day or that month or that week or whatever. But if you kill any, you see a dead tree there. So it's just that like silly little like dopamine, like I want to see the tree. I want my flowers. I want the cactus. But it's been working. And I know it's one of those things that it's going to work for a certain amount of time. And then one day I'm going to be like, I don't care. I'm killing the tree.
Yeah.
And then it's not going to work anymore. But but for right now, yeah, it's definitely helping.
I identify with what you're saying so much. And it's funny, it makes me think of my students too, because sometimes my entire classroom management systems are designed around not like what's working for me, but like how long is the current thing I'm doing working for their psychology until simply because there are really good strategies and ideas that I sometimes do that just stop working after 2 months. And then I find another one.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and sometimes I don't know if you find this, like for me, it's just getting started too on a project. Like I just need to start. And if I tell myself, you only have to do this thing for 25 minutes, right? And then I can get started. And chances are I end up working longer than that. But it's just getting myself to start, having that little timer going, saying you only need to do this much of it, and then it kind of makes things happen. And you get that tiny little dopamine rush of like seeing the thing you planted.
I love like goofy gamified stuff like this. There's a Pokemon app coming out this summer that I already track my sleep on my watch and it goes to my phone, but like they're making this app where like the amount that you sleep and your sleep patterns, like, you know, you open your app in the morning and then there's like a cute Snorlax Pokemon, and then other little Pokemon have appeared based on like the quality of your sleep, and then you try to collect them. Nice. And I'm already like, sign me up.
Yep. Yeah, because it is. It's just that little like that validation, or, you know, I mean, the Apple Watch, right? I got to close my rings. I've got to get that little, it's just, yeah, we need that little thing. So,
totally agree.
There you go, Forrest.
I love that. I'm going to have to put that on my phone. All right, I'm going to move on to music. So I'm going to pick an album this week. And Nickel Creek has a new album as of like a day or two ago of this recording. And they're a group. Are you into them at all?
Yeah, they're actually going to be in this area in the fall. So
okay,
maybe I'll get to go see them.
That would be great. They do a great live show. Yeah. They're at a point in their career where they release an album like once a decade. So, you know, and it's like you always have to, you know, it's like because you get it once a decade, it's like I always think I'm like, oh, if it's not really very good, I'm going to be disappointed. But it's so far, my listening of it is, it's like something about the way it's produced is like, you wouldn't think that the sound of 3 stringed instruments bowing or strumming a chord together would have this like explosive quality to it that it does, but they somehow have just like really put a lot of attention into the way that they have mixed and mastered and recorded this record to where, you know, I mean, I know that they're like adding stuff in the studio to it, but like it just sounds huge. And I love the concept of how they've like taken their sound and their songwriting and like given it this kind of like grand sort of production to it. Also the harmony is like in chord progressions are super interesting, and their singing harmony is also like, it's just like really interesting what they do with that. So I'm so far really enjoying it.
Nice. I'll have to make sure I check that out. Cool. So I'm discovering I cannot listen to music while I work. I get too distracted. So I don't have it on a lot. But one artist I have been listening to recently, it's called GoGo Penguin. Are you familiar? It's piano, but it's just okay. Yeah, that's. I mean, again, I rarely find things that are new just because I don't listen to a ton because it distracts me so much. But I've been liking that because it's just kind of calm and it just, I don't know, beautiful music.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah. So I don't have a specific album. Sorry.
It's all right. I'll just put a generic link to their website in the notes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
Tech tip.
I could potentially give you 2, maybe. Well, one.
I do have one. I might have done this before, but like, okay. So if you're on the Mac, find yourself editing a Microsoft Office document of some kind or some sort of document-based app, Word thing or a presentation, and then you want to like email it to someone or share it with someone or make a copy of it somewhere on your computer. Well, in the topmost area of the application is like the title of the document and then a little proxy icon, which sort of looks like a little rectangle, like a little, you know, like with a little flap to indicate, hey, this is like a paper, this is a document. You can actually take that icon, click it, hold, and then drag it out from the title area and then into the body of an email message or into a folder somewhere and make a copy of that document. And that is very frequently how I get the thing I'm looking at into some other place the quickest.
So my actual tech tip, you made me think about when you were talking about t-shirts and like ordering t-shirts. So in Google Sheets, I really like the data validation feature. And I think I've noticed when I kind of teach this, people really get into it. So with the idea with data validation, it's more like a drop-down menu within a cell. So for example, if we were talking about t-shirts, right? You could have your whole list of kids and then maybe in one column it's size. Well, instead of having to click like S instead of having to type small, you could have a drop-down menu within each cell to say what size shirt the kid's going to get. You could have a drop-down menu that says unpaid, paid, or delivered, right? So you could see where each kid is. You can also color code them. So if it's paid, it's going to show up in green. If the kid's unpaid, it'll show up in red, things like that. And it's just easy to set up and easy to duplicate for a lot of different cells.
Nice. I love that.
So if you're a Google Sheets person, yeah. Can I share, you also made me think about when you said Grammarly. I stopped using Grammarly a couple years ago and I used Pro Writing Aid. Are you familiar with that one?
You were telling me about it sometime in the past year.
Yeah. Okay. I like it because it's cheaper than Grammarly and it has more features.
Okay, maybe I should be using it.
Yeah. Yeah, and of course it has like the Chrome extension and the Google Docs integration and all that good stuff. But I like that I can really search for very specific things in my writing, whether I'm looking specifically at, I mean, anything from like sentence length to readability to style, grammar. And I can also tell it what kind of writing I'm doing, like a blog post versus something that's more academic. So it'll kind of look for things in that. And it also recently added... I can't remember the word. It's like would you like to reword this kind of a feature where if you're writing something and you're just like, it doesn't quite sound right, it will use AI to reword it for you and try to put it into a better frame. Like if you're using too much passive voice or something like that. And I found just from writing, I felt like it actually has made me a better writer because the things that it yells at me for, I now know and understand and can do ahead of time instead of having to be yelled at for it.
Okay, I'm going to have to try it out, especially if it's cheaper. I do currently pay for Grammarly. It's sort of like an on or off. It's, again, a subscription that I reevaluate often.
Yeah, but I feel like, I don't know, I feel like anybody who puts text out into the world, it's a good thing to use, right? Because if you're going to be, I don't know, I think what we say and how we say it's really important. And I think there are ways to help and to make what we're doing, just more understandable, more concise, all of that stuff.
Yep.
Okay, so they call it rephrase, and I guess the rephrase part's still in beta, but you can use it. So
cool, nice, all right.
Yeah.
Well, as usual, I'm going to link it all in the notes, everything we talked about. Yes. I assume this is a pretty natural way to kind of close things down. At least the show topics. Yeah. You've got books, you've got podcasts, you've got blog posts. Where can people find all of your ideas and engage with you on the internet?
All over the place now. The easiest place is just go to my blog, which is offthebeatenpathinmusic.com. And that will link you to the books. That'll link you to the podcast. That will link you to the courses I'm teaching. If you're looking for like professional development this summer, I have a couple different courses I'll be doing. So all of the things are easiest there. But yeah, I mean, if you like tech, can I tell about the courses I'm teaching? Do you mind?
Oh yeah.
Okay, yay. Okay, so if you're in Arizona, I'm going to teach my Google Fundamentals course for music educators at ASU the first 2 weeks of June. And this is the first time I'm teaching this kind of in person. It'll be like a mix of in-person and asynchronous work. So that's a good one if you're in the state and want to like get together and be googly. Then if you're not in Arizona, I'm teaching the Google Fundamentals through the University of the Arts, completely online, and then also the advanced Google tools through University of the Arts, which is all online. And those courses are almost completely asynchronous. We'll do 1 hour a week together, and everything else you do in your own time. And then I'm teaching a new course through Vandercook called Music Technology Moving Forward. And that one is for people who, are music teachers and want to start incorporating technology into what they do, or want to incorporate more into what they do. So I wouldn't say it's not for someone who's like, I'm teaching music technology class. No, this is not for you. But if you're a band director, if you're a chorus, you teach general music, and you want to see how it can be integrated, especially now that we're being more intentional about it post-COVID, right? We're not in this COVID like, oh my goodness, I'm using it because I have nothing else to do. Let's see how we can really use the tech to enhance the actual music making and use it in that intentional way.
Yeah. So, we need that a lot right now.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Cool. Well, I think I'm going to go hang out with my 3-year-old.
Oh, so which 3-year-old are you getting tonight?
Right. Like the really sweet one, or like you like put the milk in before the cereal and you didn't. So now I'm on the floor in fetal position.
I mean, I'm not going to say I haven't been on the floor in the fetal position in the last week, but maybe not over cereal and milk. So I get it. I get it. Yeah.
Awesome. And with that,
This was fun.
this was fun. Thank you for coming on, and thank you for doing this.
Yeah. Of course.
We'll be texting. I'm going to send you my thoughts about things, of course.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
And
good.
Yeah, and good luck with everything going on.
Have a good one.
Have a great night. You too.
Thanks.
Today, I would like to introduce you to my scale exercise play along tracks with trap beats, available for sale at robbyburns.com. These trap beat play-alongs include over 72 audio recordings, each of which includes a count-off, a trap beat at 70 beats per minute, and a tuning drone playing both the tonic and each note of the scale in just intonation, so your ensemble can learn to play in tune, develop steady, sustained tone, and blend with other sounds. These drones are stacked over top engaging trap beats that help students to practice at slower tempos while developing steadiness of time and a better concept of how the beat is subdivided. The scale exercises include whole notes, half notes, quarter notes, eighth notes, scale in thirds, and a mini scale with an arpeggio at the end in all 12 keys. I have also included 3 speed variations of a Remington exercise, so band ensembles can work on their favorite tone and technical exercises, whether they be from a method book or of your own invention. The tracks are $15, but for $40, you can get the stems to the tracks in Logic Pro and GarageBand format, so that you can do things like speed them up and slow them down, change the pitch, add your own accompaniment, take out my voice and add your own,
and 2 and 3 and go,
or even sequence the tracks together to completely automate your ensemble warm-up. These tracks are perfect for running through your Google Meet, Zoom, or virtual teaching platform of choice, or for running through the loudspeakers at the beginning of your in-person rehearsal. Check them out now at robbyburns.com/store. I'm Robby Burns. Thanks for listening to Music Ed Tech Talk. You can find the show's page, show notes for the episode, and my blog at musicedtechtalk.com. You can subscribe to blog posts through an RSS app of your choice, and you can subscribe to the podcast in the podcast app of your choice. You can now get blog posts delivered right into your email inbox once a week. Please rate and review this show in the podcast app. It absolutely helps. It'll take a second and just a few taps. Word of mouth is helpful too, so please spread the word about it. Learn more about my music and teaching career at robbyburns.com. You can find me on Twitter, Facebook, Twitch, and YouTube at Robby Burns. Please consider supporting me on Patreon at patreon.com/musicedtechtalk. All support tiers get perks, but even the base tier gets you access to the Music Ed Tech Talk Discord community, where you can chat with other supporters and guests of the show about music, apps, pedagogy, lesson ideas, tech support, and more. It's a fun place to be, and I hope to connect with you soon. Thanks to this week's sponsor, Scale Exercise Play Along Tracks. Be sure to check it out, and see you next time.